Raising children varies from culture to culture, even from person to person. Can anyone here tell me what your parents passed down to you? Well, some values that my parents passed down to me were frugality and kindness. They learned those values from their parents and from their own life experiences and what they decided to teach my siblings and I. But how children are raised is very dependent based on the culture. Today I'll be talking a little bit about how children are raised in Mexico and Japan and how this affects how they'll grow up, and how the parenting styles are similar and different, and what Mexican and Japanese cultures hold to be the most important values. This is an important topic to study because how a child is raised will affect how they grow up. To understand a culture and to know what values are important to them, one needs to know about which values they hold so highly that they teach their children about it, to ensure that it survives for at least one other generation. So I will be talking a little bit about some cultural dimensions from Hofstede that illuminate the values of Mexico and Japan and some of their similarities and differences when it comes to family life and raising children. Japan and Mexico might seem like two countries that have very little in common, but you, like me, would be surprised to find that they are more similar than one might have thought. The first culture that I will be analyzing will be Japan. This is an ancient culture, and I will first talk about Hofstede's dimensions of Japan, which come from Hofstede's website on cultural dimensions comparing the two countries. This can help describe Japan's culture a little and what they value the most. When it comes to power distance, they are rated a 54. Power distance is defined, according to Hofstede's website, as the extent to which the less powerful members of institutions and organizations within a country expect and accept that power is distributed unequally. This means that their score means that they are a borderline hierarchical society. Being aware of hierarchical position is important in social setting, and one should always keep that in mind. However, it is not as hierarchical as some other Asian countries. In addition, Japan is a meritocracy, which means that if someone works hard enough, they can succeed. Another dimension that can tell us a little bit about Japan's culture is masculinity, where they score a 95 out of 100, very high. This very high score means that they find masculine traits like competitiveness, success, and achievement to be the most important in life. This indicates a low score in femininity, whose traits like quality of life, liking what you do, and caring for others are not valued as highly. From a very young age, children learn to compete against each other in groups in Japan, like in sports. The last dimension that I'll be looking at today for Japan is indulgence. This is defined as the extent to which people try to control their desires and impulses based on the way that they were raised, according to Hofstede's website. A society can either be indulgent or restrained based on their score and whether they give in to their wants and desires. Japan has a 42, which is considered low and puts them in the category of restrained. Restrained societies are often pessimistic and cynical. In addition, they don't think that taking time to relax is worth it, and feel that enjoying themselves is kind of wrong. I chose these specific dimensions to touch upon to give everyone a broad idea of what is important in Mexican and in Japanese cultures. And now we'll take a look at the same dimensions in Mexico. Mexico's cultural dimensions information also comes from Hofstede's website on cultural dimensions. In Mexico, their power distance score is 81, which indicates a hierarchical society. Hierarchy is defined as an organization that reflects innate inequalities. Subordinates expect to be told what to do. Centralization is a popular idea, according to Hofstede's website. In Mexico, people understand that there is a place for everyone in society where they belong, and there's no need to explain why that is. Mexico also scored a 69 on masculinity. In countries that score high in this dimension, they tend to be focused on living to work, and there is a strong emphasis on equity and competition. The idea manager is assertive and decisive, and conflicts are often solved by fighting them out. The last dimension is indulgence, where Mexico scored a 97, showing a very high tendency towards indulgence. In indulgent societies, people are typically optimistic and have a positive attitude. Also, this high score shows that Mexicans are more likely to give in to their impulses and desires with the idea of enjoying life and having a good time. Mexicans also believe that it is very important to do what they want to do, have downtime, and spend money as they would like. Now that you've heard a little bit about both countries, I'll talk about the issue that I'm focusing on today, their parenting styles. So I'll be looking at how each culture raises their children. First, I will outline some of the similarities that I found in my research. The first thing that Japan and Mexico have in common is the importance of collectivism. Both countries are considered collectivist and have large power distances, according to the article Face-to-Face Work and Conflicts with Parents and Siblings, a cross-cultural comparison of Germans, Japanese, Mexicans, and U.S. Americans, as well as according to Hofstede's Dimensions website. Seeing as collectivism as an important value of their cultures, it makes sense that it would influence how they choose to parent and raise their children. However, which group is considered the most important? It varies in each country, as I will get into in the differences section. Another similarity is the level of indulgence that parents and teachers have with children. Mexico scored very highly in the indulgence dimension, and while that was not the same for Japan, there is research to indicate that indulging in children is an important value in Japan. In the article, Child Rearing and Educational Practices in the United States and Japan, Comparative Perspectives, the researcher found that Japanese teachers tend to be more tolerant of children misbehaving or being too loud. This contradicts the stereotypical idea of a quiet Japanese school full of obedient children. However, this state of noise and chaos is thought to be the correct way to take care of children in Japan. One teacher was interviewed on the matter and said, "The purpose of